Does it give you a chance to click a link to see where it's been tested in court and the outcome of those?
I'm gonna,
Some research services do that, but they're expensive.
I'm gonna go ahead and call the meeting back to order and apologize to the folks on stream. A little bit of technical difficulty there and the stream cut out on us. Ms. LaRue, I interrupted you. I interrupted your thought about.
No, I just was saying that we would like the smaller copy to review.
And Mr. Summers, sorry, I cut you off.
It's okay. I got a question.
Actually, both of your questions. So Mr. Summers, this Ohio Municipal League publication does have citations to cases as well as the statute, so it would be helpful there. The nice thing is it does give clear, it basically goes section by section in the revised code, not necessarily in the order it's laid out, but in a kind of reorganized way. So it gives citations. So if you want to go and read the full section, it tells you where to go. But at least this one's, rather than, as someone pointed out, the problem with reading legal codes is it's written by lawyers for lawyers. Yeah. And at least this one's designed to be read by people who are in government, but who are not necessarily lawyers. So I'll just work, if it's okay, I'll work with the auditor to get copies.
I'll add too that, I mentioned I had a conversation with Don Mason up in Zanesville. He's the current president of the Ohio Municipal League, and he did mention if the league can be helpful in any way. He said, I've been playing phone tag over the last 10 days or so. We've not been able to connect, but I'm still trying to work on getting some time with him and maybe see if the municipal league and their attorney who went through that would be willing to at least have a conversation or get some recommendations on that as part of the city's membership of the municipal league. So that's good, and I don't think we want to add anything to the list like right now in a larger sense. I will say I'll raise some questions here that I have that Jonathan, you might be able to answer. So, Chapter 715, General Powers of Municipal Corporations. Everything says municipal corporation may. They may establish police and fire. They may establish a public utility. They may establish a building code. So with everything that says may, do we need to recommend to the new statutory council that they reauthorize all those things?
I think that's the best answer, using the police and fire as an example, but where there's been litigation over that, the courts have said that you have to be careful because the early cases are a little confusing. The more recent cases are more clear on this. Because it says you may establish it, doesn't mean you have to establish it, which means if you don't have to establish it, it's only established if you affirmatively act. Bookville's a great example. Their statutory village, they don't have a police department. They contract with Nelsonville police for police services. And that's precisely why, in fact, the courts have said, we read may as you haven't done it until you affirmatively act, because otherwise Bookville wouldn't be able to do what it's doing. And they've made the decision it's more flexible. It's better off for them to contract with Nelsonville rather than establishing their own police service or police department, excuse me. So based off of those cases, based off of, as Mr. Courtney said, there's a huge difference between a shall and a may. Given that when the statute says may, there needs to be an affirmative act, and the safest thing to do would be the new statutory council take that affirmative act to ensure that there is authority for those various entities, arms of the city, departments of the city.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I think that's helpful too, as we're looking at all things the statute requires that we likely will have to, if they don't, we'll have to look at what the statute lays out, what the city may do, look at what the city's currently doing, and then have to continue those things, have to reauthorize them through resolution or ordinance. One final thing, Mr. Rowe, on that. So section 73503 of the revised code, management and operation of municipally owned public utilities by board. So the city obviously owns a water system. Does that require the city to establish a utilities board to manage?
Let me look into that. Just,
Okay.
I want to give a,
Yeah, I can send it to you, right?
yeah, I want to make sure I'm giving an informed answer. I haven't looked into it because I don't want to give a wrong answer, but yeah, I will look into that.
Okay, well, thank you for that. I saw that when I was looking over, this chapter, and that's not something I believe we're doing right now, but it seems like we will have to
Which
do.
chapter was that?
That is section 73503.
Thank you.
All right, well, as Mr. Robe is researching that, we'll discuss that in the next meeting, as well as hopefully we'll try to get a copy of that municipal league memo to each commissioner for us to look over the next 2 weeks before the next meeting to maybe have some recommendations. Or at least we can,
More than 2 days before.
yeah. Yeah, we'll try to get that. I'll try to get that by the end of the week. I'll try to get a copy of that. Anybody else have anything to discuss with the transition plan? I do want to discuss timeline a little bit. Mr. Clement, can you remind me, is it in July and August, the council meets at the second meeting or does not meet at the second meeting?
The second meeting in July and August do not happen.
Okay,
Now, we can still call for a special meeting, obviously, but the charter says no second meeting in July and August.
okay. The reason I ask is because, I think that it will be, we'll have to be doing a bit of work outside of, these twice a week meetings, a lot of reading, a lot of thinking as individuals. But now that we know what the course forward looks like, I think that we should be able to have a written report of recommendations that the new council takes, that we can also share with the current council to get their feedback on probably sometime in the summer. The reason I asked about the summer meetings is because I believe that it was, we met second meeting, not first. I was wrong on that. So I think we do the second meeting of July, but we could do the first meeting in August. It would be another 2 weeks delay, but I don't know if on that timeline, especially since these are things that the current council probably will not be able to do all of them. It probably wouldn't be that significant for that 2 week delay.
Do you have a thought on the time frame on that?
I would think if you would have a report to council by September.
So with that in mind, that first meeting in August, let's try to have a very solid rough draft of a plan put together. Obviously with things the charter government can do, we're bringing that to them as we come up with them. But I think that this would be a plan of what to do once the government switches over, as well as maybe some of those things that council could do that were kind of, we're kind of hands up in the air on the legality of those things, but it could be done, to change the way the current government operates. So, and so first rough draft, a good rough draft, first meeting in August, and then first meeting in September. Hopefully we would have that finalized. Council would be able to send their edits back to us, and we can make those changes. Sound good?
Mm-hmm. With that rough draft, I would recommend that we add in an appendix with the explanations on why. So like Article 1, we go back and this is why.
Yeah.
We should do Article 1.
Yeah.
The explanation for it.
Yeah, I think that'd be good as, ordinance to do this, that does these things. Here is why, the reasoning behind it.
Yeah, we can
You're gonna
explain
lay
it,
out-
they don't have to argue.
Yeah,
about
show,
it.
show your work.
You could just lay out a sample of, you know, this and then this and then that, how the form you want it in. Thank you.
I will,
That would be helpful to everybody.
All right, any more things for commissioner update or discussion? Does anybody have anything they'd like to bring up? Hearing none, we will move on to public comment. Anybody in the public?
One question, I
Go
have
ahead.
two questions.
Yeah.
One is about the December issue, and the solution that has been recommended to council. I've been seeing where candidates are prohibited from being printed more than once in the same ballot. How might that apply to a situation in which entirely separate terms are placed on the same ballot for the same offices?
I don't believe, that applies because they are not, they don't overlap at all. So it's not like, there's a prohibition for, sorry if I'll use myself as the bad example. There's a prohibition on me seeking to run for both, state representative and county commissioner at the same time. So much, I can't do that. That's a felony. But when there's something that's, hey, I'm running for, and I'll just use this as an example, because this is where it comes up. I'm running for Congress at a special election to be through the date of the general election in November, and then through the end of the year, and then again, it's November ballot. There's a special election because there was a vacancy, and I'm running to be member of Congress for November and December, but then also running to be member of Congress starting January 1st. Those are two different offices because of two different terms.
Has anything like that happened before?
My understanding for like the example of the congressional person, at least around the country, has happened quite with some regularity.
Okay,
I can certainly look into the specific application to a municipality, although no, there should be something out there because there should be plenty of instances in a municipality where there's been a vacancy requiring special election to fill the remainder of the term, where it's also happening to serve the first term. That won't happen that often in certain situations because there have been amendments to the revised code to avoid that very problem, in fact. So like, for example, in a statutory village, if a vacancy happens in the mayoral office, there has to be a special election to fill up for the vacancy. But if it happens so many days within the election when the term would end, you just ignore it. You just say, oh, you're just there.
Could I ask what the citation on the code is?
I didn't write it down,
Okay,
I'm sorry.
that's fine. If that's out, but I can do some digging.
I don't
if
have
that's
it on
out.
the top of my head.
I wanna read that.
I think that's another reason why it would be advisable to have a resolution from the council, given the situation, because again, remember, who is on the ballot for Nelsonville city offices is a matter of Nelsonville law. Whether that law is in the form of the charter, whether that law is in the form of the Ohio Revised Code, it's still Nelsonville law. It's not Athens County law. It's not Bookville law. It's Nelsonville law. And so if the council passes a resolution saying we need to have, well, that's Nelsonville law. And Nelsonville law directs what offices are open, what offices and at which elections those offices are to be filled. And so, I'm not trying to pick fights with the Board of Elections, but they don't really get to decide. They just administer the law that's given to them.
And does that open us up to litigation, or is that just precedent settled that it is the decision of the city for that to happen. I mean, I know that you've said it's Nelsonville, it's, the likelihood for litigation is always high, but,
I would not change my answer.
Okay.
I'll just leave it at that. That's it.
it's fine, it's true, thank you.
Thank you. My other question has more to do with civic education, perhaps. Even though the rescheduling of this regular meeting was announced at your May 8th meeting and at council's May 12th meeting, some folks are raising concerns about how the written notice wasn't sent out by the city before today. Does the requirement that special meetings be noticed 24 hours in advance also apply to rescheduled regular meetings?
No.
Great, thanks.
And I will add that to the advice of both the city attorney and outside counsel.
Yeah, so the city which is, in the practice of seeking legal counsel, at appropriate times did reach out today, for advice from outside counsel.
I will add to that, yes, we announced this at, tonight's meeting at 2 public meetings previous to this meeting. There was just a miscommunication with getting the written notice out today as a courtesy to the citizens of Nelsonville. We apologize for that, and I'm going to endeavor that doesn't happen again in the future, so.
Yeah, I will just say, for regular meetings, the Facebook notices are not legally required. I think it's best, I think the city should, I think the city does a good thing in doing that, because you need to let the public know, and in this day and age, a lot of people find things out through Facebook. I think that should continue, but it's not legally required for a regular meeting. There is a provision in the law, if somebody, for example, this happens with the media, requests, hey, can you add me on a listserv so that I'm notified, that needs to be done. But if someone doesn't ask, the law does not require an individualized notice to be given, whether it's in the form of a social media post or whatnot. Again, I think the city should continue its practice of posting on Facebook, but again, that's going above and beyond what's the minimum, legally required minimum.
Thank you.
Any more questions or comments from the public?
To be fair, the meeting was included in my article about.
And I saw that, thank you. And it was advertised in at least one newspaper.
And was it even put in the Independence list of public events?
No,
Oh.
I need to check in on that. But that's none of your concern. Thank you.
With no further comments from the public, we'll talk about action to be taken and to set our next meeting. I put on here assigning revised code chapters to review to members of this commission. I say that we continue that on to the next meeting once we have the memo from the Ohio Municipal League. And just for my benefit, I'd like to just go over our action items from your report to council. As far as the December problem, I'll be recommending to council to look at quotes for third-party auditor and treasurer in the event that we can't have those positions elected or a citizen to fill those, to seek professional services for that 1 month to fill those roles as an advisory or oversight mechanism. Additionally, consideration of adopting a 3-month continuing resolution to the city budget to ensure that state departments have resources to continue operating and city meets its financial obligations, as well as that for the formal transition plan, we'll be recommending to the statutory council that we will have a rough draft to council on the first meeting in August. And I don't have my calendar pulled up, but I will actually, say that date, when I'm making this.
Well, the
Report.
first meeting in August is really the last meeting that they would normally have, correct?
They don't.
They don't do the second meeting in.
Oh, you don't do the second meeting in August?
No,
Oh, I got that, never mind,
Yeah, so-
forget I said that.
So,
but as I said, we can call a special meeting.
Yes.
and we might do that to workshop the plan, but, back on track here, rough draft, we'll have it ready for council, and I'll present it on the first August meeting, and then, open that up for feedback and, edits and changes to the council if they so wish. And we'll have a final report ready, for the first meeting in September. Outside of that, am I missing any? And I will also, Ms. LaRue, I'll mention the League of Women Voters meeting on the 29th that will be happening, just for their awareness. Am I missing anything else that we'd like to have reported to council on Tuesday?
I can't think of anything. There's a lot.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lift to get some of this done, but I have confidence that we will get there. All right, let me pull my calendar up and we can look at setting our next meeting. So 2 weeks from today is Wednesday, June 4th. We should probably look at Thursday, June 5th to get back on track and meeting on Thursdays. Are we fine meeting Thursday, June 5th at 6 p.m. in this room? All right. For the benefit of the public, the next meeting of this body will be on Thursday, June 5th at 6 p.m. in Nelsonville. Chamber councils and agenda will be posted at a later date.
That one thing on that, if we get back on track, the following meeting after that will be June 19th, which would be a holiday.
Yeah.
So would we want to possibly look at now moving that to the 18th, which would be a Wednesday, or another day just to address that?
Yes, let's not set that in stone yet, but let's keep that. I think it's good practice to schedule the next meeting as meeting previous. So thank you for bringing that up. And we will be looking at that as our meeting after the next one.
I don't know.
We're gonna Wednesday, so.
Change it or not.
With
It is.
no further business on the agenda, does anyone have anything for the good of the order they'd like to add? If not, we will adjourn without objection. Hearing no objection, we stand adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about my delay.